Hello again there, everybody. This is TJ Fowler for Skullbanger.net. I'm here once again to give a video review of the classic PC game Alone in the Dark 1. It came out in 1992. It was released by Infogrames. And as always, this game could be purchased from GOG.com. They have a great deal on it. It's $6. And you also get Alone in the Dark 2 and 3 with this. And as of right now, they're having a Black Friday sale where the game is 70% off. So you can actually get the game for $1.80. And that'll last throughout the weekend. So hopefully by the time this video goes up, you'll still have time to go and purchase this game. And so let's get into the review a little bit and talk about Alone in the Dark 1, what it's about, kind of its history a little bit, and so on. So Alone in the Dark 1 essentially is a H.P. Lovecraft-esque tale. If anybody is familiar with H.P. Lovecraft, he was an author from the early 1900s. He wrote about Cthulhu, the Cthulhu mythos, a lot of ancient evils, occultism, things like that. He was really the precursor to Stephen King. He was a horror novelist, obviously. And so he really inspired a lot of authors to come after him, even though he was relatively unknown in his lifetime. So this game came out in 1992. It's a Lovecraftian tale, and this was a first game of its kind to come out in the sense of survival horror. The people at Capcom recognize Alone in the Dark as being an influence on the first Resident Evil game. When you play Alone in the Dark and you play the first Resident Evil game, there's a lot of similarities. You're in a mansion, and there's some strange things going on. There's puzzle solving. You have to find certain items in one part of the house to unlock certain secrets in another part of the house, and so on. So in that regard, Alone in the Dark is really the grandfather of the survival horror genre. Now, as a series, it didn't take off in popularity like Resident Evil did, but the first game is a good entry, and we're going to get into a little bit about what's going on here. So in Alone in the Dark, you take the role of either Edward Carnby or a female. I can't remember her name because I didn't play her, but a female that you can also play as well, which is the niece of a character that has committed suicide in the house. So I used Edward Carnby, and what you are a private investigator. You get hired to go to a house and basically find a piano up in the attic, and you're supposed to report on it and let the person that hired you know about it, whatever, for an antique sale or something. Basically, all that is, that's just a precursor to kind of get you inside the house and get the story going. And so the mansion is located in Louisiana, and it's called the Derceto Mansion. Excuse me. And you go there, you go in, you go up to the attic, you look around, and this is when things start going not according to plan. The piano is the least of your concerns once you get inside the house. You begin to find out that the man that committed suicide in the house, he committed suicide in the attic itself, and you begin to find certain things begin to unravel for him as you find his diary. You find certain items in the house that kind of explain the history of the house and its dark history, to say the least. And so the story is pretty compelling. You'll find books and manuscripts, different things that will describe different time periods in the house, how the current owner that committed suicide, what he did, what happened to him exactly, and so on. So as you explore the house, you end up finding pretty intriguing puzzles scattered throughout the house, and some creatures. Now, it being a survival horror game, anybody that's familiar with this genre knows that battling creatures is not always the best option. In fact, usually it's never the best option. And the same is true for Alone in the Dark. It helps set the precedent for this. There will be creatures that come attack you, and by and large, most of the encounters can be avoided or somehow dealt with in another way other than shooting. And it's got all the things survival horror is known about. You got ammo conservation that you need to really keep track of because ammo is very limited, and there's certain ways to do puzzles to kind of get around some of these creatures. And Visual-wise, the creators did a pretty good job for the time period of creating a nice atmosphere for the game. It's got the Lovecraftian feel. It's got the time period takes place in the 1920s, uh, which a lot of the Lovecraft tales took place in this time period. So it's got the gothic kind of atmosphere going for it, and the story writers did an excellent job with these manuscripts. It really helps set the tone for what's going on. When you read them, you really get the idea there was some ancient evil going on, some ancient occult practices, and things just very, dark. Um, Now, that being said, the game is dated in terms of graphics. This is one of the first games to kind of start trying to incorporate the 3D aspect. So during this time period of the early 90s, mid 90s, at this point, a lot of the stuff was very 2D graphics in computer games. So you had a very artistic style in a lot of games of this time period because it was hand-drawn artwork that was incorporated into a 2D style. For computer games, Alone in the Dark didn't go this route. It went through it with the polygon 3D stuff, and it shows. The graphics are kind of crude. The color palettes are a little, odd. While the mansion does have a very gothic kind of feel to it, it's got some sort of a weird green color to it, which it doesn't really bode very gothic-y in terms of color schemes. But I'm not going to hold that against the game. Like I said, 1992. I think we had Super VGA graphics at the time, where you had like maybe 256 colors you can go from. And this game may not even been Super VGA. I can't remember. But I'm not going to knock it, but just be aware that the game's graphics, you're not going to have Xbox One graphics here. That's not a knock on the game. That doesn't take away the fun of the game. Just be aware that that's what the graphics are. It was kind of a pioneer in what they were trying to do. Now, I guess we need to get to it. Is the game fun? Is the game fun? Yes, it is. The game is very fun. You have puzzles that mostly are logically done well. There's a few that's kind of like you kind of have to think a little bit in terms of you have to assume. There's one or two that are like that you have to assume this is what's going to work. There's nothing really leading you to that conclusion. But other than that, the puzzles are pretty well done. There's one thing I had to look up, and only because I had broken an item earlier in the game, and I could still use it for what I needed to do, but I wasn't sure. And so I did look at that. That's really not anything against the game, but it's still one of those puzzles that you kind of have to assume something on. But puzzles are well done. Atmosphere is good. Story is superb. Especially if you take the time to look at the manuscripts. And another thing on these manuscripts, when I had the game when I was in high school, it came, with some nice packaging and things like that. But when I played the game, I had to actually read the stuff. So maybe my sound card didn't support this, but GOG has managed to get voice acting to work in the game. Now, if this was originally came with the game when it first came out, I wasn't aware of it. I didn't know because my computer didn't do that. So this is one of the very, very good surprises of the game. The voice acting, when you read any kind of text, has voice in it, and it's very good voice acting, better than the Resident Evil game that came out several years later. But that was a very pleasant surprise here. Most of the voice acting is very professional. There's a few that sounds a little hammed up a little bit, but voice acting is spectacular. Really helps set the mood, and it keeps you from really having to sit there and read the stuff so intensively, because some of the stuff is a little long to read, and you can kind of just listen to if you don't want to pay attention. But it is important that you do pay attention to what is being narrated to you, because it holds clues. And the way the sound sounds like a real old record from the 1920s when they're speaking, which adds to the atmosphere as well. So good job, GOG, on getting the voice acting to work in this. That's an excellent thing. So another thing we need to talk about is drawbacks to the game. As great as the game is, there are flaws to the game, and this is mostly done in the control scheme. Again, 1992, first kind of game of its kind doing this. You have your fixed camera angles. and the way you move. Now, the way you move is by arrow keys, and that's a little clumsy, especially when you are around enemies that you have to get away from, or even fight. If you decide to fight in it, it's going to be rough, people. It's going to be a little rough if you have to bear arms against a creature. Now, that being said, if you've ever read H.P. Lovecraft, it's never been good for people that's actually try to fight the creatures in his stories either. So if you wanted to try to make an excuse, you could say that's kind of thematic. It's also it's just bad controls when it comes to combat. Now, they're not as bad as you would think, but they are clumsy. And on the flip side of this, where I would think the controls would have really had suffered, the programmers did a good job in certain parts of the game where you have to jump. You get the command to jump later in the game, and for some reason, I don't know what they did, but when I had to jump in the game, it was perfect. Even with these controls, I just lined my guy up and jumped, and the guy made them. I never, made a misstep due to the jumping mechanism. The only time I made a misstep was because of a camera angle. The jumping was fantastic, so I don't know. It's kind of a tale of two cities there or something. But anyway, I thought the jump commands were pretty good. But that's really the only knock on the game I can give it is the controls and the kind of the command schemes. Because if you want to search for something, you have to hit enter, go into a menu, pick search, and then hit spacebar to do it. It's a little extra steps involved in that. But again, not stated before, 1992, first time they's trying to do this. That stuff's been refined through the years. So everybody, Alone in the Dark is a fantastic game. I'd give it a 4 out of 5 because I'm a Lovecraft fan. If you're not a Lovecraft fan, it might be a 3.5 out of 5, 3 out of 5, something like that. But for me, it's a 4 out of 5. The game is not overly long as you kind of get through the puzzles. The puzzles might get you stuck a little bit, but you're not going to be out a lot of time. If you're looking for a good story in a game, it's got that. Go check it out. Like I said, GOG.com. Great website that offers a lot of these classic games, and they do a good job getting them to work on the newer operating systems. The game works flawlessly, and right now they got a big sale going on, big Thanksgiving, Black Friday sale all weekend long. You can get the game along with Part 2 and 3 for $1.79, I believe. Otherwise, it'll be $6. Check it out. Hope you enjoyed the video review. And check out my website, skullbanger.net. I cover a lot of other things, mostly heavy metal music and horror movies. And thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.
Of death. There are domains more terrible than death. That is not dead which can eternal lie. Each creature is conjured up and is not dead, but returns to the origins. A monster, a science. Steel kills the vagabond who never dies.